shaking the head. Okay, I'll provide a prayer. Being that we are opening the year, and this is our first presser that we're having. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Father, we thank you for giving us this privilege as your children. We also thank you for giving us energy to champion different causes for this nation. We thank you that we, under very difficult circumstances, we are still surviving, and under very difficult circumstances, we are still representing people to the fullest. We ask for your energy as we go forward. Father, start with us and continue with us and close with us. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. As I said, that we are opening the year with this presser, and by nature of opening the year, meaning that there are a lot of issues that are accrued, and if there are a lot of matters related to registration as it may be, and this being the case, we will talk about some of the government policies that we feel we can provide an alternative. We also talk about registration process, but we cannot run away from addressing constitutional issues, because the constitution is positioned as a grand norm in this looking at different issues, where other subsidiary laws attach. This also means that we will also address the issue of national values, which the Constitution says is the compass for national policy, as well as the issue of implementing laws as it may be, or registrating laws as it may be, which is our main role as members of parliament. Having said that, we will start with Honorable Kampiongo, who, among other things, is going to address the issues surrounding FISTIP and SAFE, also the comprehensive, what was projected then as a theory, which is now proving to be a theory, which they call the comprehensive agriculture approach away from the FISTIP, which we have not seen. And I think it's our duty that we, within the provisions of oversight law, we can attend to that. For now, let me call upon Honorable Kampiongo to address that particular matter. Then I'll go with Honorable Kafwaya, who will open up a range of issues, which will further be supplemented by Honorable Sanga and Honorable Mundui. Honorable Kampiongo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Fube. And let me welcome our colleagues from the media who are for this first interaction in the year 2025. I don't know whether I should say Happy New Year or Welcome to 2025. I think will suffice, because happy is subjective, bearing in mind what is going on currently. I want to start by conveying congratulations on behalf of the people of Shwangando to the Tonse Alliance and Tonse Alliance National Congress Party and all the parties that form part of the Tonse for the victory they scored in Petauke constituency. We all know the circumstances that led to those by-elections. And as much as we don't subscribe to the events that resulted into that by-election, when the Honorable Member of Parliament was there, Honorable Jeje Banda, disappeared, we were hoping that he was going to be seen at some point as assured by the state. So we know that it was a very difficult by-election, of course, with so much at stake. And, so, you know, some members of parliament who participated in that election from different political parties. But the people of Petauke spoke, and I think their message should be commended. and appreciated, because it had to take the principled people to withstand what was going on there, and make sure that they elected the person of their choice. So we encourage other areas to learn from what transpired in Petauke. We know, of course, that our colleagues, our teams that were in Kawambwa and Bambashe did their best. And those results bring a lot of mixed emotions to some of us, because our colleagues who were in those constituencies now in incarceration. My colleague did mention that I have just a brief message with regards to the agriculture sector. We all know that the cost of living now has gone through the roof, and our people are struggling to have the staple food on their tables. And this is a shame, because the cost of a bag of meal now is around 420 kwacha in some shops, and where it is being sold cheaply, courtesy of those milling plants that the Patriot Front government left. The milling were done under the National Service and the Correctional Service, which were meant for a specific purpose, are now being used to try and mitigate the situation, which is fairly okay. But what is not okay is how people now are being treated. People get this milling meal from these milling plants, which seemingly to be cheaper, and this milling meal is not delivered to sales points of certain traders. So when a trader puts a markup for transport, they are now committing what we don't know, and they are having their milling meal confiscated. It shouldn't be like that, where there's food security. That shows you how food insecure we have become as a country. Where's still the milling meal coming from the commercial milling plants? The day before yesterday, the acting Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Honorable Mtati, was giving a rundown of how the prices of milling meal have fluctuated. And in his own statement, he informed the nation that from 2021, the milling meal was costing at 141 kwacha. And we all know that the promise to the people was that from that 141 kwacha, it was expected that the milling meal was going to be brought down. The price of milling meal was going to be brought down to 50 kwacha, which is now not the case. And according to Honorable Mtati, the price of milling meal is fluctuating between 350 to 420 kwacha. How many citizens are able to afford those prices? We remember that our owner, the Vice President, did advise us to try out Rorami. Rorami isn't cheaper either. So we sympathize with our people, and the unfortunate development is that we don't see any hope of the milling meal prices coming down anytime soon. Why? Because the agriculture policies which are being implemented are not speaking to production of adequate food. The Minister of Agriculture delivered a statement yesterday. And in his statement, he was just telling us the old story we know very well. He was saying out of the 3 million plus small-scale farmers who are supposed to benefit from the government support, they are still only able to give support under Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP, 1 million plus. 1 million, about 1,035,000 farmers. The number which was left in 2021. Now, this has left our farmers stressed and under pressure because now they've been forced to start sharing fertilizer using what we call to MEDA measures in their cooperatives because there are so many and they want to farm. Now, the rest of the 2 million farmers, he contradicted himself by informing us that out of those 2 million, those 2 million farmers were to benefit from what is called CASIP. That CASIP now has been replaced by what they are calling Sustainable Agricultural Financing Facility. Now, here is a very interesting mathematics from the minister. 2 million farmers. He was even proud to tell us that out of that 2 million, only 53,000 countrywide farmers applied to access support from SAF. Out of that 53, only 7,000 were approved. Now, 10 provinces, you have got that minor number, and you are very comfortable as Minister of Agriculture to even come to the National Assembly and share those figures. What has happened to the rest of the farmers? And then you are even saying, regardless of these farmers getting very little input and seeds, they must sell you 10 bags of maize. So, we find this very strange. And our areas, northern, eastern, northwestern province and northern province are recording reasonable amounts of rainfall. And it would have just been prudent that the input supply to those areas was adequate for the farmers to grow enough food so that the prices of mealie meal can then be expected to come down. But that's not the case. The minister is comfortable to tell you that under this stuff, the new program, which has troubled people moving from Malole going to Kasama, people moving from far-flung areas of Shuangandu to just try and go and access stuff, only to do a blank. And the banks they've identified to implement this program are also tired because they're not receiving money from government. So, we are very concerned because we didn't get hope. And if I just give you a classic example of, the stocks from the time our colleagues took over government, they inherited about 3.6 metric tons of maize in the sheds, which they willingly sold. And we came here in this place, to discourage them from offloading the maize in the manner they were doing. Because we knew that it was going to be difficult for them to replace such stocks. The year that followed, we dropped the production levels from 3.6 to about 2.6. Subsequent year, 1.5 metric tons. The other year, they didn't even give us statistics of what was produced. So, insala ile muchalo ile moneka kwa tiala konkanyabo. And we would like the Minister of Agriculture to go and tour the country and see how farmers have struggled. Because when he's talking here in Lusaka, you would think, yeah, everybody has access to this stuff. If you don't look at the figures and numbers he's talking about. Petauke here, even where there are by elections, people were made to move from different areas to come and camp, hoping to access this fund under SAF. Alas, they just wasted their transport monies to go and camp near the banks. So, Honorable Mtoro, you need to be accountable to your people, because you shouldn't feel comfortable when people are struggling to put food on the table. You can propose all manner of alternatives, but our people know that worry a worry. Urutoshi lwa bwali erwa teke kyalo. To our farmers, we sympathize with you. Na muda tushwana muchula, taba muchindike, wa agriculture, wa lelo. You were promised 10 bags of fertilizer. Now you are sharing fertilizer, mameda. So, chiri kulimwe. What remains is for you, because the authority and the power to let people work for you lies with you, the people. We don't know how much the new domination of 500 kwacha, how many bags we shall be buying from that money. Pantumuli 100 kwacha ila denomination. Wale shala change. Ngawashito hunga. So nomba abantu pama ndata pali peace, tapali umutende. Kunsala. Lastly, we want the Minister of Education. Minister of Education, you should listen to the stakeholders over your decision to change the curriculum and restructure the grades. Those teachers you are frustrating, making them to fund the orientation programs which you didn't plan for, are the ones to implement that program, that curriculum change. Now, where do you expect them to get the materials to use when you haven't provided the materials? So, even when we encourage them to read the Bible, that's mocking the people. So, yes, we have seen the PS being dropped. We thought the issue of what was that? Chimpapila was only at that level of one teacher. Now we have seen Chimpapila elevated to the ministry itself at that high level. Chimpapila now is retiring people at the PS level. But our plea is that we are waiting for the minister to come and brief us at Parliament so that we can have our thoughts. But what we know so far is that this curriculum change, syllabus change, materials must be revisited. In any case, it would have just been prudent for the government to pilot these changes before they could escalate it to the national level. It's very unfair to just implement a program which is not tested. What are you trying to achieve? What is the right for? The classroom blocks that have been built in a few areas are not sufficient to accommodate the population of pupils in most areas. My constituents, for example, we have got now children that will be covering long distances to access secondary school education, which was not properly structured. So, Yes, we have seen those changes of Chimpapila and some irregularities that were recorded at the Ministry of Education, but we don't want this organized confusion to go unattended to. The key stakeholders in the education sector are the teachers. And so if the teachers are not ready to implement a program, the probability of that program to succeed under the education sector is very minimal. So, Honorable Minister for Education, Honorable Douglas Tiakarim and your team, listen to the stakeholders, because this is about national building. The future for today, tomorrow, depends on the education sector. Just as the agriculture sector, it depends on the products coming from the education sector. So these two ministries are being called out. And if the president really cares for his people, he must evaluate what is happening in these two ministries, Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Education. Because these are two ministries that might drown him come next year, because there is no seriousness that seems to be attached to these very important critical sectors of the nation. Thank you very much, Honorable Fube.
Thank you so much, and I think that was depth. When you look at what Honorable was addressed, is addressing in terms of policy planning. When we saw our friends positioning themselves in a way, we were even afraid. We were even afraid that they are going to really make it very difficult for the opposition to bounce back. But now I provide a way for the opposition to come back, because the nation has seen that instead of providing a good policy as they projected it, they are fumbled, either in education or agriculture. I think allow me also at this point to recognize members that have just joined us, the Petauke, the Bangalore, and Nkana, to be specific. And I think we also need to recognize that the gentleman was voted in on Valentine's Day, in Valentine month, but he has just joined me, because me, I was voted in on Valentine's Day as the first time I came to Parliament. I think one of them, they can bear witness to that. I think I'm the only.
Invited to come and sit here. Okay. Honorable of Parliament for Petauke, you are being invited to come and sit here.
So, as I've recognized the members of Parliament that have just joined us, at this point, I would like to ask the Mkana MP whether he has got something from Copper Belt before the others come in. Whereas we can hear the voice from Copper Belt as we are mixing up.
Amaru.
The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, are you ready?
He likes flowers. If you have seen much of these jackets,
Which one? The flower should be out. Wait. Video. You can let me know if we are ready.
Are you ready?
Honorable Fube, leader of the opposition, Honorable Munduvire, Honorable Kafwaya, my good friend from Petauke, the newly elected. I want to take also this opportunity to just say a few things on colleagues. I think that for me, I want to speak to the incidents that happened in Parliament today. You are all aware that this morning I was sent out of Parliament, and this is not the first time that I'm being sent out of Parliament. I think myself, Honorable Munia Zulu, and a former MP for Petauke JJ, we are the most sent out members of Parliament perhaps even Makafwaya, perhaps in the history of this parliament. Uh, now, for me, I just want to say these few words, and I think that the public for a very long time have heard us lament over the unfair treatment at the hands of our speakers in parliament. And what happened today is a classic, point of reference of what we go through in parliament. Remember, we are in parliament as people's representatives. Okay? Whatever we say here is basically a depiction of what is happening on the ground. And so it is not up to, speakers to stop us from speaking. Parliamentarians enjoys, democracy, parliamentary democracy, meaning that they must be allowed to speak freely. Now, the instance of today is quite unique. Those of you who followed the story today, it's the issue of the victim ending up being, vilified. Okay? Because today I was a victim of abuse. I was a victim of defamation at the hands of Honorable Mungandu, the Chama, South, is Chama North, Chama South Member of Parliament. And this arose from a very simple incident of me asking a very simple question from the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. And let me perhaps paraphrase on this one. The role of the citizens is to hold government accountable. And when I talk about government, we are talking about the executive. It is the role of parliament to hold the executive accountable to their actions and inactions. And so it is our duty on behalf of the people that we must come to parliament and interrogate the many issues that are happening in the country. My question today arose from the fact that Honorable Jack Mwimbu was making an assurance to the Zambian people that police is ready to curb or to fight any forms of crime aided by the safe city cameras. I think the Zambian people may wish to know the PF government installed safe city cameras. These cameras are so powerful that they are able to pick minute details of criminal activities as far as perhaps silver arrest. Okay? Meaning that we can once boast that we are a safe country or a safe city, Lusaka as an example. It therefore tells us that if there's going to be any criminal activity that will not be easily picked, it will be basically maybe a fault of those city, safe city cameras, or maybe the inertia of the police to be able to follow such activities up. And my simple question this morning was simply asking the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs to assure the citizens that now these safe city cameras are fully operational and they are going to aid the police in combating crime. Because you note that not long ago, we were crying to these safe city cameras to help us in addressing the issue of JJ's disappearance. You know very well that had these safe city cameras been operational at the time Honorable JJ disappeared, we would not have been where we are now. Because where we are now, it's Honorable JJ's word against I don't know who, because Honorable JJ did, tell the Zambian people, the people that abducted him. If these safe city cameras were operational during that incident, we would have known who actually abducted JJ or what exactly happened to Honorable JJ. And so my question was simply, Honorable Minister, can you now assure the Zambian people that these safe city cameras are now operational? I think that the public now can go to the records at Parliament and listen for yourselves as to the response I got from Honorable Jack Mwimbu. Because my question did not warrant all that response we got from Honorable Jack Mwimbu, where he went to speak about Ichaba Iche, where he went to speak about Munyaule, forgetting. And the sad part of the UPND is that they've got a very short memory. Or simply, they are very economic with the truth. Because we know of social media pages like Watchdog. We know of social media pages like Koswe. These pages, for many years in this country, have been defaming citizens. These pages, for many years in this country have caused so much harm in regards to the hate speech crime. Nobody has bothered to ask these questions. Nobody has bothered, including Jack Mwimbo, I can challenge him here, has bothered to go behind the faces of these social media platforms to bring to book these characters who are behind these social media pages. Up to now, these social media pages continues to defame the citizens. Today, Honorable Jack Mwimbo, without shame, can come to the house to talk about how they are, moving in to arrest those who are behind Munyaule. In fact, Munyaule is a very simple addition to the hate speech we have witnessed over the years. I think that Honorable Jack Mwimbo, if he's a state council, which is why I wonder whether he's a state council for state council indeed, should have preoccupied himself to address all manner of crime. And what happens on the page Causeway and the watchdog should not be immune to prosecutions. So, to go all about in the manner that Honorable Jack Mwimbo went is very sad. And this is the minister deposed with the responsibility of guaranteeing the citizens peace and security. Interestingly, today, I get abused by Honorable Mungando. Okay? I get defamed under the guise of parliamentary, privileges. Honorable Mungando today goes scot-free by defaming me and abusing me right in the presence of the speaker. He is protected by the speaker. He continues to spew hatred on me to an extent of suggesting that I'm one of those who were responsible for JJ running away from the hospital in Petauke. That is a crime. Honorable Mungando today is suggesting I am the criminal who was behind the disappearance of JJ from the hospital in Petauke, and the speaker is shielding him. In Chipata, as I'm being corrected, the speaker is shielding me, a victim of abuse, a victim of serious defamation. The speaker decides to shield Mungando and decides to send me away. What did I do? The only thing I did was to protest. We do protest in parliament. We echo out in parliament whenever somebody is misbehaving. And it was justified on my end that I needed to protest to the speaker to stop Mungando. Because Mungando was defaming me, Mungando was abusing me, and the speaker was allowing him to continue. I had a duty and the right to protest. What did I get? I am sent out. Colleagues, yes, I moved from my chair to where Mungando was sitting. Well, in my other life, Mungando would have been Ponona today. But you see, I am a lawmaker today. I'm a child of God. I'm repented. And I must be very frank, Mungando would have been Ponona in my other life. But you see, I chose not to be civil because Parliament is a house of etiquette and, decorum. But you see, the point I'm trying to make is this. We cannot continue to be abused at the hands of the speaker, thereby being turned to be victims when we are supposed to be protected by the same speakers. This unfair treatment surely should be condemned by all well-meaning, Zambians. And let me also perhaps conclude by suggesting this. We as citizens, we will continue to carry out our duty to hold the government accountable. This will involve us calling out for on a crime for what it is. If the police, in the guise of effecting arrest, are going to abduct citizens, we will call it as it is. Because, fellow citizens, what is an abduction? An abduction simply refers to picking somebody by force, whereby nobody even knows the whereabouts of somebody who has been picked. Because in certain instances, as the case was around Munia Zulu, plainclothes, people came in parliament grounds to try and pick Munia Zulu. If you come in your plain clothes, how do I know you are a police officer? Let alone where you are taking me. I remember being visited by 16 plainclothes officers at my house. I refused to open because I didn't know who these characters were. And if they had picked me, that is not how an arrest is effected. especially on people of fixed abode like myself. If the police wants me, they can simply, send out a call out. If I don't appear, that is when they can follow me. But the reports we are receiving today, people disappearing in questionable circumstances by questionable people who cannot even have, the courtesy of introducing themselves. Fellow citizens, that amounts to abduction. And we are going to call it by that name. So my appeal to Ray Amonga, who has become very excited at issuing threats, is that if he wants us to stop calling out abduction as it is, he must allow the police or let the police do their job as the case has been in the past. When you are arresting somebody who is suspected to have committed a crime, please go and say, we've come to arrest you for this particular crime. If you have a lawyer, let them know that we are arresting you, or we can even wait for the lawyer. Let alone, why not allow the family to even know where you are taking somebody? The case of Chandanonde, which is now a public story, why would you want the citizen not to question what happened to Chandanonde? Because Chandanonde was picked by unknown people to an unknown place. For many days, the public were asking where Chandanonde was. The police did not have the courtesy to issue a statement to perhaps inform the public who were now being troubled as to the whereabouts of Chandanonde, to simply say, we are the ones who picked him up and we are holding him in this place. So we will not be intimidated by the police to keep our mouths shut under those threats. Can you imagine today, fellow citizens, that in the history of this country, Jack Mwimbu, Honorable Jack Mwimbu, is even threatening citizens, stopping them from discussing the health of the president? Who told you? Who told you that the president has now become a god whose health cannot be discussed? In this country, we have witnessed, especially the UPND, mocking a hailing president. Michael Sata was mocked by the UPND to his death. Okay, we have recorded verbatim in Parliament where, who is this MP for State House? The nominated MP, the PAC MP. I've forgotten. It is on record that some MPs went as far as saying, Satafwefe, Mufaradi, fellow colleagues, is on record in Parliament to have even said, Satafwefe, in Parliament. These colleagues of ours have a very short memory that they mocked President Sata to his death. These colleagues of ours have a short memory to a point that you remember the headline, Chagwa Agwa, insinuating that Chagwa was sick. So how is it befitting for them to have called out that the president was sick and today it has become criminal? I think that the public is now in a space where we must be asking the double or the unfair application of the said laws. But I want to make this as an appeal to Jack Mwimbu and especially Ray Amonga. We are not a farm. We are not their animals. Okay? Who shall be shushed? Shush, shush. You can't speak. No. If you go to Afmakulapula, we talk. Okay? And certainly, for as long as it is within the law, it is permitted by the law, we are going to call out on a crime as it is. If it is abduction, whether committed by an individual, it shall be abduction. If it is committed by the police, it shall be abduction. And we shall not be silenced by those simple threats, whether they are simple or otherwise, by Jack Mwimbu or Ray Amonga. Our appeal to them is that they must do what is right. Colleagues, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was a mouthful from a member of Parliament. One of it is the conduct of our presiding officers in Parliament. I think the honorable member from Ghana is within the parameters of Article 76, read together with 63. And in addition, the Parliamentary and Privileges Act, where members of Parliament have the freedom to speak on behalf of the people. And given that, you also realize that fairness is emphasized in the Privileges Act, where those who are presiding over the matters of the nation should not look at who is opposition and who is not. Every member of Parliament has the equal status in Parliament. And I think that we have to make it clear that the article in 76, which is supplemented by the Privileges Act, and also the article in 63, which is also supplemented by many other factors, does not mean that it is only members from the ruling party. This is not this is a multi-party arrangement. It's not a one-party state. Thereby, when implementing all these arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and parliament, in any case, they should use national values in Article 8 as a compass, which talks about integrity, morality, ethics, constitutionalism, democracy, and many other factors. Democracy has not been biased. Democracy has not been unfair. Democracy is not been partial. Democracy just means democracy. And I think the member of parliament from Ghana also did talk about the behavior of the police, which the people of Turkey also agree with, that the police have become such a menace. And I think the police have become alpha and omega to themselves. As we speak, there are no rallies in the nation. As we speak, a lot of space has been suffocated by that man called Musamba. He has been taken the Bill of Rights and is moving with it in his pockets. And I think we want to acquire a people had a particular mindset. When this Musamba person should realize that the police's duties are covered under Article 193 in the Constitution. Among them is protection of Bill of Rights, which my brother there has actually referred to. What they are doing, arbitrary arrests are just nothing but abductions. There is a procedure that people have to be subjected to when they have to be brought to the courts of law and many others. It does not end with the police. It ends with the courts of law because they are just arrested. And the process is there in Article 18 of the Constitution. So to apapata bakapokola, chindike nifundi. To apapata mama institutions of government, chindike nifundi. Because if let's come channel, you are going to find that all of us are not going to respect the Constitution and the laws. We have really been following and not following the temptations that have been coming through Parliament, the executive, as well as the judiciary. As we speak, we are in this quandary of where certain political questions are not decided because the judiciary have gotten excited with the eligibility, abandoning the main questions that are supposed to be asked and answered by the judiciary. So let each and every institution of government, especially the three arms of government, play their role properly, so that all of us are going to swim in the same pool, not where there are laws for the opposition and there are laws and procedures for the opposition and procedures for the ruling party. I think the message was very clear. We would like to thank the Ghana MP for echoing that and emphasizing that we must have fairness and impartiality. At this point, I would like to call upon Honorable Kafwaya to address a range of issues before the two other honorables come in. Honorable Kafwaya.
Thank you so much, Honorable Fube. I would like to recognize my honorable leaders and the media, and also just say Happy New Year to the countrymen and women. I know that as Honorable Kampiongo was speaking about the economy earlier, things are so bad in our country, economy-wise. The cost of living is very high. You know, we are now subjected to crippling load shedding. Its corruption is rampant. The situation is just bad. You know, there is now a declining international community confidence in the leadership of the country. IMF is an example. IMF is now telling the UPND government to go back to Zambia, go and talk to the people, you know, get confidence of the people, and then you can come. We talk after you win elections. It's a bad situation. Look at the USA, Sweden. They are withdrawing their support from the country. It's not easy, but people of Zambia are quiet. They are not talking. in spite of all these difficulties. That must tell you that the UPND government is in trouble. Having said that, I have basically 5 issues that I would like to address this afternoon. The first is I borrow from the Minister of Health, Honorable Dr. Elijah Mchima, who said today in the National Assembly that the Constitution will be amended soon. Constitutional amendments are coming soon. That was what the minister said. I would like to say to the minister and the UPND government that the Constitution is not their document. It is a document for the Zambian people. The Constitution is different from other acts of parliament because other acts of parliament are there to regulate the conduct of people. But the Constitution is the people's document which regulates government. Therefore, government cannot be in the forefront telling the people that we are going to change the Constitution and the issues we want to change are the following. It is the people who are the owners of the document who should be saying, we want to change this document and the items that we want to take out of the document are the following. That is how a responsible government conducts itself when it comes to amendment or even institution of new constitutions. But what we are hearing is even more worrying, where we hear that the key issues that UPN want to change in the constitution is they want to extend the term limit. You see, the Zambian people already gave you 5 years, like they gave everybody else who was elected. How is it that you, who was given the contract, now want to be the one to extend the contract? An employer employs you and says, you work here for 3 years. Then as an employee, you want to say, no, I want to stay for 7 years. What type of thinking is that? It's very unfortunate. I hear that they want to remove the term limits, the 2 term limits of the president. So that, and it is the Zambian people who decided that everyone can only be president 2 terms. Then this UPND, according to what I'm hearing, want to remove the 2 term limit so that it can be endless, like it used to be when Dr. Kaunda was in office. Takwaba, mule mfuako nensoni. Mule mfuako nensoni. You must also look at the things you have said in the past as a party. Look at the things you have been saying. Look at how you were promising that you are such good leaders. You are such knowledgeable people who can do things, you know, with wisdom. And you can't be this careless. They want to remove 50% plus 1 and make that same president who can be there endlessly. They don't care, can only be elected by the minority. They want to remove 50 plus 1. Now, you look at all these things, and you are thinking, what is in the minds of UPND? What is in the minds of UPND? UPND must now begin to develop shame in the manner they have been running this country and change the trajectory. I think what they will be emphasizing is that, no, we want to take back the MPs to the council. What they will be emphasizing is that they want to delimit constituencies so that people like myself and the MP for Lukasha Mahoda brother here, of course in Porokoso is relatively smaller, but it's also big. They will be coming to us and say, we want to cut your constituencies. And those MPs who are very weak right now will be thinking, if they cut my constituency, I will stand this side where I'm strong. You understand? And it becomes a sweetener for MPs to go ahead and support these constitutional amendments. Let me tell you, this constitution is not ours. Lunte You know that in Posamawe is not on the notes. They have decided to remove the freedom statue, and they have put new features there. You see, it's like Zambia is a new country. Now there's even, they talk about changing the flag. Zambia has a history. We have where we are coming from, and Imposamawe is part of our history. The freedom statue is part of our history. It doesn't matter what you think about the individuals who are depicted in those particular national emblems. You want to change everything. It's as if UPNG, you are the first government that has ruled country. Listen, the independence was won by our forefathers, and Dr. Kaunda he became their president who ruled us for 27 years. And thereafter, Frederick Suva took over. And after that, we had Mwanawasa. Then from Mwanawasa, we had Rupia Band. And Michael Sata came. And then from Michael Sata, we had Edgar Lungwa. Now, Hakainde Ichilema. Look, Zambian people decided for all this. We have heads of presidents on one note. Mwaisa Funyapu. A jubilee note where we celebrate our leaders because you think this is a clique of thieves. What type of thinking is that? I think, let's now consider our country a little much more than having sectarian considerations. It is too much. It is too much. Lekeni fyo. I would like to also talk about the fuel areas. Briefly, I posed the question to the Minister of Energy for the Minister of Energy to tell the nation what the balance of the fuel, fuel areas were as of 2024. The reason I posed that question was because in 2024, we appropriated a supplementary budget where Minister of Finance told us that they were going to clear the arrears. Here is why Minister of Finance said they were prioritizing that particular area. They said because the terms were not favorable, the interest was accumulating too fast. So they were going to borrow an amount which was cheaper to maintain and settle the 877 million, which was outstanding. That was both principal and interest. And indeed, the Assembly appropriated, but at the end, government has not settled that particular debt. Now, the government will be lying to us all the time that they want to do this and they do the other. This is why when somebody from State House said the government has no intentions of amending the constitution, the minister today came and said, well, the amendments are coming soon. So you have a government which, even appropriation, and appropriation is law, but you allocate money for the liquidation of the area, and government chooses not to execute. They go and pay 109, they go and negotiate for the stalling of interest accruals. They also pay $20 million. From 877, you come and sit at a balance of 736 million. And you say you have executed what the Zambian people wanted. No, sir and madam. What you have done is you have cheated the people. Because you came to the assembly and said, give us money to liquidate this. You haven't liquidated. Even as we sit now, this debt is still there. So, nasheni ko bufi ba UPND. Nasheni ko bufi. Mwachilamo ubufi. Na mtu buku monse ko wepo. What type of people are you guys? Muri bantu bamusango shani. Anyway, let me comment about against corruption as my last point. Somewhere I saw somebody commenting about the corruption index improving. That is the perception. People think that there is less corruption now. In today's diggers, I saw again somebody saying, telling us, the PF, that this particular issue is not for political scores. So I don't have to score any point on this corruption index. Now, if somebody tells me that the way people look at Zambia, corruption is going down, and then I start looking at the things that have been happening. Abantu bayafisa 61 containers of umuti. Uacharo. They go and hide. Niba UPNG. Vaiva, gold. Ukuitwala kwa airport. Kwa baya itwala kuja ku presidential pavilion mukushitisha. Indeke ya ishire mukushita. Tunaona bayikatendeke ndeke yaya. Mukula, Vaiva Mukula. You could have said, no, this Mukula was in PF, it was fresh. Balonga track ya belt. ZNS commander Taya Ekata, Bakabgala Laba Mukula, not anywhere else, Kuse Sheke. Abe Ekata. Listen. It's just unfortunate. Then you come and tell me, no, these are the same people. I'm a single sourcing. Nendala meshine shanyu mitozi direct bidding. Indala meshine, this same new money. The minister said direct bidding. FETRA is a direct bidding. Umusebo do direct bidding. If then you are saying corruption is going where? Down. Okay, maybe you are speculating, but listen, what the general? The one who doesn't qualify to be in his office. After my report, I don't understand. It's a big problem. The CDF corruption is rampant. Although the general Tarika kuli one PS at if my report PS who are UPNG, they can't if my report the general. So now you have a situation where the credibility of the Auditor General is at stake. Not only from our perspective, some of us who have refused his existence in that office, but even now, the leaders in PF, but they can. The UPNG, sorry, did I say PF? Sorry, the leaders of UPNG are now refusing the quality of his work. But anyway, he told us that one guy who Minister of Education gave himself a contract. One guy, Minister of Education, gave a contract worth of millions of dollars to his own company. Okay? Then one minister says, why are you just concentrating on me? Corruption is everywhere. Now, then the perception, when did you ever hear such things in this country? And then somebody comes and says, no, the perception is improving. Then for us, because we are PF, we must not talk about it in terms of justifying that this index, this perception is just nonsense, it's politics. You see, Mr. Nyanguru was arrested. I don't know if you know. Nyanguru was arrested. That man was the CEO for ZAMSA. It's Nyasulu, sorry, it's actually Mr. Nyasulu. I am very sad for that arrest, to be very honest with you. Mr. Nyasulu, wherever you are, just know that, speaking for myself, I feel sorry for you. This is the same way I feel for the arrest of Tasila Lungu. I feel very sorry. And for these two arrests, I'll tell you why I am sorry. Nyasulu was the CEO at ZAMSA. The board chairperson there said that to procure anything, you had to get clearance from State House. From State House. Now, if just to procure, clearance has to come from State House, what about utilization? Can you utilize without getting clearance from State House? You can't. And for those guys at State House to clear you to make a procurement, they had to be sure that you are going to procure from somebody who is aligned to UPND. Because they are saying, no, these are not aligned, these are PF, these are not aligned with the party. But where does this now leave us? It leaves us at a situation where the corruption in the procurement of medical supplies, medicine and medical supplies became so rampant, leading to the hiding of medicine. 61 containers. But can Nyasulu do that alone? The answer is no. Nyasulu can't do that alone. Nyangulu, Nyasulu? Nyasulu can do that alone. So he is a sacrificial lamb, and I'm calling upon the UPND government to stop the smoke screen in the fight against corruption. This is partly why the perception of UPND government is becoming so bad in the eyes of the international community. Tasira Lungu, you go and arrest her for issues which are already in court. What are you suggesting? Umuntu ali mukoti over these same matters. Mwayamweka firafine firi mukoti. So are you saying that angayapo ile court process kukamba himbi over the same matters? Or are you saying that you are sensing that there might be acquittals, but therefore you need to begin fresh processes so that there's no chance for an acquittal? Mwe bantu muli bavi mwe. Abavi takwaba bantu bamusango. Takwaba abantu ba musango oyo monene mwalikete Dix Chembe, mwalikete Mukuli Chikuba, mwalikete uyu ntwani uyu Mlonda, mwalikete Kennedy Mson. These people I've mentioned are very key guys. One is Auditor General, one is the Control of Intelligence, one is the Accountant General, and the other one is a PS in a very critical department at Ministry of Finance. You arrest them. All of them. Not only this, but a good number of them too. After you arrest these people, if us were expecting that these are criminals who have done, if at no, my allowances. They were getting allowances. 3 years later today, you have failed to take these people to court. What you have done is, you have taken them back to work. You have selected, cherry-picked a few, take them back. But these ones I mentioned, they are still appearing at SEC. Let me tell you, colleagues, what these arrests mean. Umuntu 3 years, I am going to extend bond every month at his cost. Umuntu bali mpoka passport. You have confiscated their passports. They can't travel. So they can't do business. You have also restricted their bank accounts. It means they can't transact. You have restricted their assets. What type of people are you? By UPND? Clara Mazimba had to die. She gave up. Afwa mwamwipa Clara Mazimba because of persecution. This same persecution you are doing to these people. But after 3 years, mwafilwa ukusanga anything. Now, Anti-Corruption Commission is having a meeting in Sunday's creation, trying to convince these people at just come and confess. Just come and say, no, we stop. And then when you confess, you even say, we are going to pay back. Then the persecution will stop. What manner of nonsense is that? When you arrested this person, he refused. He told you, I'm not a thief. Then you are saying, come and confess that I'm a thief. With all this persecution, you have actually caused on these people. You want them to even throw away their careers. Because as a chartered accountant, when I confess to be a thief, even when I'm not, it means I throw away my SEMA qualifications. Where will I ever be employed? If I leave Lunte, where will I ever be employed? Nowhere. So you want Kenneth Msonda, you want Mukudi, you want Mlonda, you want Dix Chembe not to have a chance with you in government because you fired them or you threw them out, and never
heritage and research. Who has done best things in the last 60 years that Zambia has existed, which is quite unfortunate. But in Kalamuka 5 kwacha and squeeze the face like that, it is going to rise in 2026. I think it's a green thing they are going. Because if you give how do you even go for a constitutional amendment without consulting the people? I want to invite Honorable Sir at this point to address us on different issues. Honorable Sir.
Thank you very much. Let me also write on the protocols that have already been established before I speak, but to express my wishes to the press that are here with us. As usual, I am going to speak on this very briefly, rather on the segment of the rule of law and constitutionalism. I think for me, the point of departure is to just continue laughing at the drama that has now encircled our constitutionalism in the country. If you remember, when the UPND came to power, they engaged the Constitutional Court as a wing of their political process to ensure that what they wanted to achieve is achieved through some sort of legal or constitutional process or judicial process. The classical case is the case of eligibility, which, if you remember, we turned to court, and under some of the most controversial of circumstances, we had one of the very eligible candidates to stand in 2026 removed from the list of eligibility. That is in the name of President Edgar Chagwa. That matter has gone back to court at the behest of the lawyers of Dr. Lungu, the thinking being that maybe we need to have a second bite at the cherry and possibly have the court rethink its reasoning previously. I had made a remark at that time. I had said that the misfortune we are having in this country is that we want to start toiling with something that rests at the pivot of this nation. The Constitution is the only document that places itself at the center of this nation. Everything that we would like to do, our gauge is a Constitution. Our barometer is a Constitution. It then stands to reason that we should all agree to classify the Constitution as a grand, and that everybody in the Republic must declare themselves to be to appropriate necessary fidelity to the Constitution. In other words, it is only the Constitution that should tell us what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. Stretching that point further, we also must agree as a nation that the people that we put in the Constitutional Court are supposed to be individuals of impeccable character, people that are brave, and people that have the duty not only to uphold the rule of law, but also to protect the Constitution. Because if those people that sit in the Constitutional Court, for any reason or another, decide to abrogate that responsibility or to abdicate that responsibility, then what follows is chaos. And today, I'm proved right. After the UPND was successful with the eligibility case, they got bolder, and they have gone back to the Constitutional Court to go and get a reversal of a decision, which they themselves had supported vehemently, that when Parliament is dissolved, no minister should remain in office. They have taken back that case to get an interpretation of the Constitution of whether at the end of 2026, those who are privileged currently to be in cabinet should remain in office. If you have followed the trend, the answer is very obvious. You don't even have to be a rocket scientist to establish that we know what first informs this decision, which guards all of us, or it can be for convenience, a document of convenience for the political elite. There is a decision of the Constitutional Court in which they had already said that once Parliament is dissolved, no member of Parliament or no minister should remain in office, except for the President and the Vice President. That case was taken to court with the fullest of support by President Agande Hichilema when then he was in opposition. I have maintained many times that the Republican president is supposed to be the foundation of justice, or the fountain of justice in the country. And he alone has certain constitutional powers that are vested in him as an individual. When you have a president such as the one that was set in the minister's case, it is only bad faith that can make you decide you're going to go back to the same court and get a determination to the contrary, because this time it becomes convenient to you. What is going to happen if a new government comes into power with our constitution, if this trend is going to continue? But for me, I'm glad today that I've been proved right, that because the UPND has established a culture or a tradition, that there shall not be finality to litigation. Anybody can wake up at any time and for any reason and go back to any court where they lost their case and go and ask that that case be looked at, because now circumstances or maybe the players have changed. But it's a question of the Zambians who are watching. I just would like to urge Zambians to pay particular attention to what is going on in the case involving the ministers. There is more than meets the eye. There are bad intentions that have informed that decision to return that case to court. But unfortunately, that shows clearly that sometimes politicians pursue what is called a narrow parochial political agenda as compared to a national agenda. And there must be a distinction if you're a politician who's serving in government, or indeed one who's serving outside government. When you are given the rare opportunity to preside over the affairs of government as a political leader, the duty that you carry on your shoulder is overwhelming. I hope that there are people within the UPN that can begin to give us what are called redeeming voices, that can speak for posterity and ensure that what they do today, they're going to be judged correctly at posterity. Let me also speak briefly about the constitutional making process, which my colleague, Honorable Kakwaya, has spoken about. I have had difficulties with the approach that the UPND has had in the constitutional making in this country, purely because from the very point of departure they have taken, that constitutional making is going to, or a constitution itself is going to be a document of convenience. They think that they can at any time stand up and begin to toil with this document called the Constitution. It is only under the UPND that we have heard such strange terms as clauses in the Constitution not being contentious, such strange terms as we are going to be harvesting low-hanging fruits out of the Constitution. It is only under the UPND. From 1971, when Mr. Mainza Chona was made to chair a constitutional review process, the process has been all-involving, has had wider stakeholder consultation. The whole nation has participated in it. And that style and practice, which accords with national best practices, was followed by any other constitutional review that we have undertaken in the country, right up to the time of the Patriotic Front. In fact, for us as Patriotic Front, we pride ourselves with having said before we got into power that we are going to take all the documents that were prepared and compiled by the previous CRCs that took work in this country and present them to the Zambian people nationwide to participate in it. You've never heard under the Patriotic Front things like non-contentious issues. things like hanging fruit, because in the Constitution, right from the place where you say, we, the people of Zambia, it is contentious. Because who is the people of Zambia? You must immediately begin to interrogate who are the people of Zambia. Are you talking about citizens? Are you talking about residents? Are you talking about people who come to visit? Are you talking about children who are below 18 years? Everything in the Constitution is contentious, which is why every aspect of constitutional making demands involvement of wide stakeholder participation. When we seemed to have problems under the Constitution of 2016, Patriotic Front still wanted to use a wider stakeholder consultation process in even amending Bill 10. They engaged not only the UPND, they engaged the church, they engaged CSOs, they engaged just about everybody before they came up with the initiative of Bill 10. I've said it so many times, I won't repeat it here, but just briefly, that UPND was as much a driver of Bill 10 as the Patriotic Front was. That is how inclusive the Patriotic Front had chosen to be when they were given the opportunity to even amend their own constitution, which they amended in 2016. Because mind you, everybody in the region had admired Act number 2 of 2016 as the most versatile process of making a constitution in Sub-Saharan Africa. We were the pride of everybody, but still we felt something had to be done. And we didn't take it like somebody leading and everybody following. PF refused to do that. PF decided everybody must participate, there must be wider stakeholder engagement, and that's why UPND was given the opportunity to also participate in what was going on in amending Act number 2. Unfortunately, our colleagues, because of their bad intentions for which they are known, decided to scuttle the process, and it fell on the floor of the House. We had said at that time that frustration that put in the process of enacting Bill 10 was going to come back to haunt them. And when they begin to talk about low-hanging fruits, when they begin to talk about non-contentious issues, it's a matter of chickens coming back home to roost. I dare the UPND. I do not know what kind of constitutional making process they're going to put up, which will beat the threshold that was created by Bill 10. But I know that because our friends are not motivated by the need to get wider stakeholder consultation in matters of national governance, we will not be surprised if we're going to enact this constitution, even after they've kicked out all the opposition MPs from parliament. It has happened before. It will happen even now. You don't take anything right with the UPND. The position with the process that the UPND is taking now is that it lacks serious stakeholder consultation. In fact, my worry very much is why are UPND stubbornly going ahead with this program? We as Patriotic Front have told them what we think are the standards that we must follow in enacting a new constitution, even an amendment to it. The church, the last pastoral letter, even made an earnest appeal to them that please, ladies and gentlemen, we have much bigger problems as a nation to address ourselves to. And this obsession about wanting to make a new constitution must be put on the back of their mind so that we can deal with the real issues the country is facing. This country faces problems internally in terms of interrelationships. This country faces problems regionally in terms of our relationships with our neighbors, especially now that we're having a problem in the Great Lakes. This is a huge problem that Zambians must begin to pay attention to. It's even embarrassing, to say the least, that at this time, when they are trying to resolve the issue of M23 and DRC, we are not seeing people coming to Lusaka for signatures. Lusaka has been known as a city for signatures when it comes to peace accords in the region, because we were a peaceful nation. Suddenly, people are now traversing themselves. They're going to Tanzania, where they're having to sign signatures to end a war which is just in the neighboring DRC here. What happened to the Zambia of 1997, where Paul Kagame was brought here, and everybody else was brought here to come and sign the signatures? What happened to the Zambia of 1992, when the South African negotiations were taking place in Zambia? This is the capital city of peace, and we have a much bigger problem to deal with right now in the region than wanting to pass this constitution. That is not even necessary. Why can't we devote our resources to something that is much more important, like making peace in the region, and by extension, the international community? Look, the world has changed. In a flick of a moment, this world has changed. Donald Trump has arrived as a new sheriff with a complete different geopolitical system in America. That affects the whole the whole globe. And we want to be sitting here talking about long-hanging fruits. We want to be sitting here, talking about, non-contentious pieces of the Constitution. How are we going to contend with the many people who are going to be kicked out of America now because the policy has shifted? How are we going to contend with ensuring that we can, plug the hole that has now been created because USA has stopped giving us what the assistance were giving us? We need to be serious with this nation. We need to ensure that when we have to apply ourselves to issues, we look at what is priority. And priority must only be established after garnering consensus from many people in the country. I'm very sure if anybody went around this country to go and talk about whether we should do a constitution today or not, they will tell you we'd rather eat than have a constitution. Why have a constitution when I can't buy milk? Why have a constitution when I can't go and buy medicine? I go to the hospital, I can't be given medicine. It's a question of prioritizing. And when we say this, it is simply because we think that the UPND is leading this country in the wrong direction, in many ways. But most importantly, in an important document such as a constitution, at the time that we're supposed to be, to be dealing with much important problems that this country is facing. We are politicians, although me, I don't call myself a politician, I don't know about my friends. Me, I'm a patriot, and that's why I speak like a patriot. I do not like politicians for the simple reason that they're the most selfish species in any community at any given time. You can see the political agenda that the PND is pushing forward in this matter. From day one when they got into power, they've been obsessed with how they're going to win 2026. Everything else doesn't matter. Whatever they can touch that gives them gratitude, that gives them latitude against others, they'll go with it. But what about people? What about the health of our people? What about the hunger in the country that has to be addressed? Leadership is supposed to be designed to make sure that people can get a benefit of giving you a mandate of 5 years, as Honorable Kafwaya had said. This idea of designing and redesigning this form so that it fits your fist, I think doesn't help the nation. We have so many problems. And I would like Zambians to pay particular attention to all of us who are in the political spectrum as we go about this story of whether we're going to enact a new constitution or not. The only thing that politicians provide to a constitution-making process is political direction. If you don't give it political direction, yes, there will be problems. But in terms of what is supposed to be contained in the Constitution, in terms of what the process is supposed to go about enacting a Constitution, in terms of all the programs we have to put together to ensure there's wider stakeholder consultation, that is beyond politicians. It's a national document. It's not a political document. I really hope that our colleagues in the UPND can listen to what we're saying. We don't say this because we want to spy. We are saying this because we think they're going about this thing the wrong way. A constitution is a very important document. We should learn to stop toiling, both with the constitution and constitutionalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Sanga. I think if it's Bashima people will say, Akala Ntakuya, Akala Ntakuya, woman is for both constitution. I think one of the doubts that if constitutionalism, which is one of the national values, has been tinkered with, constitutionalism, I think we all know and understand that's never president. We think decide if we constitution, if we really catch it. Now, my family have continued calling leaders the opposition, but our president will start organizing Mundumbi. Now, constitution and there are a lot of more things that the president has gone against the constitution, which, if I told you the numbers, I think would have really ventured into coming up with some kind of impeachment of some sort as a friend. But when you look at what Honorable Sanga has addressed, these are serious issues. That refer our president, which you also realize that they fall under within the national values. But if you like the constitution, that among national values, among the constitutionalism and democracy, are supposed to be used as a compass for implementing of government policies as well as registration. So that's why the government or not, because whenever they are coming to that, but should in the space, IT, I should come space, but president in space, but in space, the panel of all coordinated, but today, Monica, she has a natural we are a very sacred thing they are going. Takuni na not worried about it. Kulole la chama vote. Mpasha kwa 13 para kala kwa 13 August sha. Kulole la sio kuvota. Na chimone kasa kitapali na bashukula nicha. Because ngawakata kupapulo. Urupapulo mo tukumani na bonse. Constitution, that's a meeting point for everybody. Whether you are black, you are white, you are what religion or what. Every tribes, that are 72 tribes in Zambia, they meet in the constitution. And that is what they have riddled with the infidel bullets, such that we are not standing anymore. So at this point, I think let me know include what Amashi, Pafi Alango, the local constitution, Pafi Alango, the local physics, Pafi Alango, the local Kakalians, Kabas, the Itchin Sochankala, Kapari Coin, Nafim people. All of them today, sir.
Nazatazana Wakube, Kavino Chichuko Kanyepo. I wish to acknowledge the presence of the honorable members of Parliament present, both at the high table and in the audience. May I also acknowledge the state, the media, for your continued efforts, in ensuring that we disseminate information to our people, that sent us to come and serve in the National Assembly. To start with, I want to take this singular honor and pleasure to introduce to the nation here at Parliament our newest member of Parliament. This is Honorable Simon J.J. Banda. Jehovah Jireh. JJ stands for Jehovah Jireh. This is Simon Jehovah Jireh Banda, the newest member, of Parliament. The first baby of Tonse Alliance. The first baby of Tonse, a National Congress party. Others have nicknamed him. He's got so many names now. Somebody was calling him Giant Killer. But of course, there's a song that is crafted around him. Asasobe, Munga JJ. Yeah, so Simon, Honorable Simon Banda, your coming or your election in Petauke as Member of Parliament marks the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. What the people of Petauke did, they gave a signal to the rest of the nation that the UPND era has now come to an end. They equally gave another signal to the Zambian people that a new era is beginning. So the reason why it was very, very important, this election was very important to the Zambian people. Everybody knew that the direction going forward will come from there. Maybe unknown to you, Honorable Banda, the UPND government sent the entire cabinet into Petauke. Yes. They spent a lot of money in Petauke. All the vehicles, government vehicles, were in Petauke.
The thugs came to Petauke, but the people of Petauke, the people of Unyika, the people of Kalindawalo stood firm. People of Minga spoke very strongly on that day. And they said, for us, we are going to chart the new direction for the country. We will vote for Honorable Simon Jehovah Jireh Banda on the National Congress Party and Tonse Alliance. I want to thank His Excellency the President, the 6th President, President Edgar Chagwa, for all the blessings and support that he sent to Petauke during the elections. I also want to thank colleagues from Trakita who came out to support, the campaign. The nation would want to know that when we were in Petauke, we actually learned a new slogan of the Trakita. You say, Chitrakita, Chugaula, no gaula soti, no fuikila. And we thought they were joking.
And they managed to forgive.
They said for us tuzagaula nogaula soti nofikira. And that's exactly what they did. So the tractor team, district level, constituency level, and ward levels, I want to commend you for your work. And of course, the National Congress Party, the Tonse Alliance, and all its leaders for the work that they did. Now, Honorable Simon Banda, where I come from, where Honorable Kafoya comes from, we have a saying, Tumwana wa mfunda pakuya. Idimule ima Simon Jehovah Jaire Banda, kunu mwaisa, awena patauke eba mitumine. Like Honorable Kafoya said, here in Parliament, you are going to find colleagues on the right side of the House. They are going to bring a lot of temptation to you. They will come with FRA contracts. They will come with little contracts from local government for drainages, gravel roads, and so on. Trappings, just to flash in your face. They will convince you now, but start singing a different song. The people of Eastern Province proved that whoever has walked that route will be punished. There are a number of colleagues now from Eastern Province, honorable members of Parliament, who can't walk straight up high with their heads up high anymore. Why? Because they betrayed the trust of the people. They came to Parliament, instead of working for the people and representing the views of the people, they started negotiating for government contracts in exchange for their loyalty. Some of them had criminal records previously. They began to negotiate with the police and government in exchange for their loyalty. Instead of working for the people, they began to line up their pockets by associating with the ruling elite. Yes. So, my dear brother, here at Parliament, we are loyal to the people that sent us. I believe, I worked with you in Petauke. I have seen what you are made of. I know you'll be among those strong people that will remain and stand firm to represent the people of Petauke. Those that have taken a different route, I'm sure I need not explain, we saw the punishment that was given to them by the people of Petauke, but their constituencies are now waiting for them. That is if Parliament will decide not to make the right decision upon the point of order that was raised. We expect that certain seats to be declared vacant on account of them having crossed the floor. But in case Parliament does not move in that direction, the people of Eastern Province are still waiting for those MPs at the end of this term, to show them the door and prove to them and show them that when people elect you, it's out of respect, and you must return the honor and respect that is given to you. So I'll give you a chance to speak at the end, Honorable. For now, I'll just make a few comments. I'll make a few comments about some things that my colleagues talked about. Yes, countrymen and women, Honorable Kafoya and Honorable Chisanga commented on the intention by the APND government to amend the constitution. And I think the starting point is, I'll make a quote. I'll refer to one quotation which says, "The greatness of a nation is judged from its fidelity to the Constitution." The greatness of a nation is judged from its fidelity to the Constitution. When you talk about the Constitution, you also talk about constitutionalism. And sometimes we mistake the two. You can have a constitution and not have constitutionalism. The two are different. The Constitution is predominantly the text. Constitutionalism is the whole lot, including the text, the convention, and many other things that come with it. We have countries today, countries like Zambia, which have a constitution but does not have constitutionalism. Why? Because of the non-adherence to the constitutional text. That's one of the reasons where you can have a constitution, you've got the text, but the non-adherence to the text contained in the constitution results in not having constitutionalism. When you talk about constitutionalism, neo-constitutionalism, you talk about certain principles that govern constitutionalism. They are what are called immutable principles of constitutionalism. And those who speak to transparency, dialogue, accountability, a legal framework, and timelessness. So when you're talking about constitutionalism, you pay specific attention to certain things. Transparency and accountability are among those. And I think those that were following parliament proceedings will agree that Honorable Kafuaya rose on a point of order to challenge the minister who referred to the constitution-making process. Challenged him and wondered why the constitution-making process should be done in such a shrouded process. Why can't government be open about it? Why can't there be transparency around it? So our expectations are very simple. Like Honorable Tsanga earlier said, there is no clause in the Constitution that is uncontentious. There is nothing. Even a comma, introducing a new comma in the Constitution is contentious. So let us not be swayed by the statements of no low-hanging fruit. There is no low-hanging fruit in the Constitution. Every clause, including a comma, is contentious in the Constitution. So the UPND must understand, I will again quote what my colleague said, the other pieces of legislation are there to regulate the conduct of citizens. The Constitution is a people's document that is used to regulate government behavior or limit the excesses and caprices of government. So we want the UPND government to change their lens and begin to look at the Constitution as a very important document. They must also now become aware that constitution amendment is a very, very serious undertaking. We can't continue toiling with it, as it were. So there is need for a higher or a greater understanding. If you look at the region, we've got examples. For instance, you look at South Africa and Kenya. I think their constitution-making processes, have been highly regarded in constitution-making, as it were. We went as far as introducing Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 around about 2020. The arguments for and against, first of all, the process, and secondly, the content, are very fresh in people's minds. In constitution making, the constitution amendment process is as important as the content. So our expectation, based on what the PF did, we expect, first of all, not to get loose statements from ministers talking about constitution amendment. Our expectation is that the Minister of Justice must come to the floor of the House with a ministerial statement as a first step to tell us about the roadmap of constitution making. The second step is the Minister of Justice must come with a bill that proposes to legislate the constitution amendment process. What we are talking about, these are new and immutable and fundamental principles in constitution making, in modern constitution making. The reasons are simple. One of the issues that arise in constitution making, one are to do with consensus, two to do with a building of trust. So to be able to build trust, to be able to garner broader consensus, the process must be legislated. Bill 10, there was a National Dialogue Forum bill that came before the floor of the House. Honorable Lubinda, first of all, gave a roadmap on the floor of the House. Then he came with a bill, the National Dialogue Forum bill, where we talked about how long the process was going to take, how many delegates, the domain from which they will be drawn. Everything was in that act. That act was debated and enacted into law, the NDF Act. So the process leading up to the crafting of the bill was guided by law. Many of you remember that at Mulungushi, the number of delegates that came were 455, drawn from the cross-section of society, including members of parliament, even those coming from the UPND. The bill was actually crafted not by the PF. That Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 was not crafted by the PF. It was crafted by the people of Zambia through their representatives. The process was broadcast live from Mulungushi all over the country. Members of the public had occasion to contribute to Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10. But remember, it was not a bill that was done in a hurry. It started with the National Democratic Stakeholder Summit at Mulungushi, where political parties came together. Political parties and non-government organizations came together. After the NDSS, there came a meeting of political parties in Siavonga. We met as political parties in Siavonga at Secretary General level and came up with what was called the Siavonga Accord, where 4 thematic areas were identified. This process, the culmination of this process was after Ministry of Justice went around the country collecting views from citizens for 1 full year. Then stakeholders were assembled in various places to come up with their views. The NDF at Mulungushi was at the very tail end in that particular process. The reason why I'm giving this background is because with all these efforts, the UPND came and said there wasn't enough consultation, and therefore they could not participate in amending the Constitution. That is how Bill 10 collapsed on the floor of the House. I've highlighted various processes that took place over a period of 2 years. I've highlighted the legislation of the actual process of that constitutional amendment process. And yet the UPND came up and said there wasn't enough consultation. I was very shocked when I heard that they actually have plans of amending the Constitution between now and when Parliament is dissolved. It's surprising that they can even contemplate that, because how much time do they have? So if you look at the position that we have, we took a position guided by a political party and party president, President Gachagua Lungu. He had said for any constitution amendment process, if the UPND will come up with a process whose threshold will be higher than the threshold used under Bill 10, then we can think about participating. Now, if you look at the process through which Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 went, and them proposing to start a Constitution Amendment process now, then there is no way that process could be completed before 2027, because it needs to be at least a notch higher. So the only missing point in the process that we described under Bill 10 maybe was that civic education, the very starting point of educating people about constitutions. All the other processes, we followed them to the latter. Number one, the process was turned into law. It was legislated, debated, came in form of a bill, debated on the floor, and enacted into law. The delegates were called to one place. The bill was not crafted by PF, it was crafted by the Zambian people. But the UPND still said the consultation was not sufficient. So I want to call upon His Excellency the President, President Hakainde Hichilema, to abandon or suspend the process of constitution making for now. There isn't enough time. What can be set in motion now is a process with some timelines so that engagements could start. Engagements with civil society organizations, engagements with the church could start now going forward. The idea, like we heard from Honorable Kafwaya, we must understand that it's not time for us to leave the process of constitution amendments to political interests of the elite to overshadow the wishes and aspirations of the majority. We expect a higher resolve, and expect that the delegates in constitution-making process will have an objective and make rational decisions free from pull and sway, going forward. So we are calling upon President Hakainde Hichilema that over and above what we've discussed, the interest for the Zambian people should be put first, and that this process should be deferred so that we accord it enough time, one, for the churches and many other stakeholders to contribute to this particular process. I'll end by saying those that think that what will come are non-contentious clauses, I will repeat, all clauses in the Constitution are contentious, including a comma and full stop. There is no low-hanging fruit in the Constitution, like Comrade Sanga said. The moment you say we the people, already that is contentious. So people should not be fooled. When we talked to our friends in the UPND that time, we were trying to convince them to at least consider delimitation. Some of the arguments that they advanced were that the fact that we're in power, and if they allowed delimitation, we could delimitate more constituencies in our strongholds and disadvantage them. I don't know why they think the argument should be different today. If that was their suspicion, why shouldn't they think we are equally suspicious they may want to do that? So we don't want a piecemeal amendment of the Constitution. We should look at amending the Constitution in a comprehensive manner. So the other point I wanted to talk about, my colleagues made reference to the corruption perception index for a report that was produced by the Transparency International. Yes, of course, when they say that there was an improvement and that the perception had gone down by 2 percentage points, we were shocked. What we expected was a report that would say the corruption perception index has gone up by maybe 100 percentage points. That would have been a correct report. We all have read the financial intelligence reports for the past 3 years. The figures contained in there of suspicious transactions have been the highest. Maybe to put it more clearly, from the time the FIC was set up, if you added all the figures of suspicious transactions up to 2021, one single report beats those amounts. The summation of those figures in those reports. One, we've had 3.1 billion dollars. That is 90 billion kwacha. We've had 2.8 billion dollars. We've had 13.5 billion kwacha. 34.5 billion. So we are talking about billions of kwacha, just the 3 years that our colleagues have been in power. So then we ask a question, how can that perception go down with all these figures? And remember that the SCC have not had occasion to interrogate these suspects. Why? Because they're being protected. The 10 names of the ministers that were taken before the SCC have not been disclosed. They have not even been called. The reason why the SCC board was dissolved and why the Director General resigned was because there were over 10 ministers in President Hakainde Hichilema's government facing corruption charges. Because President Hakainde Hichilema and his government wanted the corruption index perception to look normal, they decided to dissolve the board so that those ministers are not called. If the ministers had been called, would that perception index been what is being reported today? If that board was not dissolved, if that DG did not resign, and if the SCC discharged their function diligently, would that perception index have been the way it is? So to Transparency International, we may not be privy to the parameters and the factors that you took into consideration, but we want to bring to your attention that during the time that you are assembling and compiling this report, the 10 ministers facing corruption under the UPND had not yet reported to SCC. They have not yet been convicted. They are yet to be convicted. Just as a reminder that at the time, the Anti-Corruption Commission did not have a board and also did not have a substantive DG. So I also hope that the Transparency International took into account, like my colleagues had observed, the transaction surrounding the dual carriageway. I think it's a well-known fact that that transaction was contracted outside what the Constitution provides, because it was a transfer of a public asset and yet did not come to this Parliament as required by Article 210. But also, you know that the National Road Fund Agency creates a pool. They collect money from toll gates. Toll gates are placed on roads which are public investments. So these public investments, money from tolls is collected and put in a pool so that there can be further investments in other similar projects. Now, the Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway, the concession holder is collecting money from an existing road where he has put no investment at all whatsoever. And yet, the reason why Kasama Mpika is like that was because government at the time prioritized the Ndola Lusaka road and ensured that it was properly repaired, and then later collect tolls, which tolls can be applied on Mpika Kasama. But the tolls are now being collected by this concessionaire. The question to TIZ, did they take into account what is happening in on the dual carriageway, where money is just being given out to an investor who never invested a single coin? We know that even the whole TIZ needed to think about that same consortium. The consortium has two contractors and some invisible company. Now, these two contractors will be paid a sum of $650 million by NAPSA and Workman's Compensation. So the question then to ask, after the contractors have been paid, okay, all their interim payment certificates, according to the design and BOQ, what would be their further interest in the road? Did TIZ look at the corruption on the Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway? The Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway is a scam. Right now, as we speak, by the time they finish collecting money on these roads, we don't think that road is going to last. Honorable Kafo raised some very important point. Honorable Charles Milupi, Minister of Infrastructure, deliberately ensured that there was no consultant on that road. I'm calling you out, Honorable Milupi. Why is there no consultant on the Lusaka dual carriageway? When you ask questions, there's young engineers there, they will tell you to ask the minister. The minister knows. The minister, it's the minister's desire not to have a consultant on that road. Now, you must understand that when there's no consultant for the whole year, there is no one to certify the materials, there is no one to certify the actual works. So how were those sections being completed without a consultant to look at the quality of these roads? I will tell you from my past experience that even simple roads like gravel roads, they will not allow you to do the roads without a consultant. Because if you left a contractor to just do 5 kilometers without a consultant, he walked out with so much money, because then he will just do substandard materials and be able to get away with it. On the face of it, you think that a good job has been done. There was no one to do the tests. Materials tests were not done. So the question now is, who is pocketing the money from the Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway, as there is no consultant? Why was there no consultant? Everybody knows that these are, in fact, there's supposed to be a consultant on site before the contractor even mobilizes. The consultant is supposed to be welcoming the contractor on site, ensuring them that they inspect the borrow pits where they'll be getting all the materials. Comrade Bilupi, the question comes to you. Why is there no consultant on the Lusaka Ndola carriageway? It's an indictment on the Minister of Infrastructure. Anti-Corruption Commission get interested in what's happening on the Ndola dual carriageway. Besides the money that is being collected on toll gates, we want to understand why there is no consultant on that road. And we should be told what will happen to the completed sections on that road, which were completed in the absence of a consultant. We know that that could amount to hundreds of millions in terms of savings. And who is to benefit from those savings is the question. So when we talk about the corruption perception index going down, we wonder. I think, we want to encourage these organizations undertaking these very important exercises, not to be very simplistic, because I think the Zambian people are awake and they're able to see what is happening. We know that the information that should end up or should bring you to this conclusion is information from FIC, information from Auditor General, and many other public institutions. Now, the individual reports coming from these institutions are speaking a different language to what the report is saying. So we don't want to take away from the work that was done, but we think that the TIZ can do more in ensuring that they capture the information and also deal with the actual perceptions that are on the ground. Yeah, so I thought it was very, very important to speak to this particular issue. I think the other matters have been sufficiently tackled. I would not want to take much of your time, but maybe just give a minute or two to our Honourable Member of Parliament to say a word or two to the people, because he now becomes a member of this team. The newest member, JJ, Jehovah Jireh Banda. He has marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. Muchilabile binongako.
Thanks so much, countrymen and women. Let me begin by recognizing the presence of senior officials who are here. I won't say much. I don't want to dilute whatever has already been said here by my senior officials. Mine is just to congratulate the people of Petauke that, yes, you have stayed long without an MP. I just want to assure you that now I'm here in Lusaka, I'm your MP. Everything will be fine. Just give me time. You know what God has done in our area. It wasn't easy, but through God's intervention, we have won the elections. I will remain loyal to you. Yes. I will also remain loyal to Tonse Alliance, yes, which is being headed by ECL. Yes. God has helped us through this Tonse Alliance. I will also remain loyal to Tonse Alliance. This is all what I can say. Vantaku Petauke is true. Tagaula, Nagaula Soti, Nofukira. Please, just give me time. Development. That's
it. As a wrap-up, I think we thank every speaker that have said and represented the issues as they may be. We know that one thing that is coming out so strongly is that our President Ichilema with his team has taken a lawfare approach. Politicians they think that we are there before them, and how they are also using the constitutional court to deal with these issues. And at the end of the day, you find that I think Bamundubile, Bakafwaya, Nava Sangava Fikukirensakwe, no you know Mendo, I saw you to be a Vikapoyu. Navalanda Kaliati, Kalofea, Bale Ingisha Munomba left Trefa Kuatara Papolo Constitution, which is the meeting point of all of us. When they have grabbed the people's wealthy, they have also jailed a lot of people using trampled up charges like if you are Palace DCRC, HPG, Navaka Kwabantu. And now, the main law that we have. Ngani Bob Marley abapo boss kituma allow nga Bob Marley if he was around. First song you would have sung is hypocrisy, hypocrisy. Asa konkanya ponaka who the cap fits, then them wear it. So mukulekere shakutasa bika pat chase those crazy fathers out of town. So ninshi I conclude the Bob Marley pada mukasango but the three songs are the very big message: hypocrisy and let the cap fit and then chase those crazy. Ni entrance apana veshwa feno kuchwa exit, because if it's tike mchalo
fyatala chitikapo in the 60 years. Now, President Chiremana to assume. There have never been a president like him in the next in 60 years who has messed up in 3 years the way he has messed up. We agree with him that no one has ever ruled the country this way. So when we are talking about these factors, we agree with our President Chiremana indeed that there is no one who has caused this messy. And not even Dr. Kaunda was under one party state, not Chiruba, not Mwanawasa, not Sata, not Rupia Banda, not Lungu did the way you have done. Kwale bafumova dribbler, but you dribbling, imingalato, monom Zambia, na itupa pshata atara chitikapu. Where you touch the very raw that you are supposed to depend on. Has it not been for the opposition, ngamuli lawlessness. But opposition, na ikwata na maturity to understand things. But you have provided a template for lawlessness. I end here, and as I continue, thanking everybody. And I thank the media for being with us. I know that this has been longer, but tumatwele lako. Twalikwa tefya kulande fingi, nefing church, wafshachi wakumkoshi. Nemingala toshine chitika Mzambia na chifundisha. Tapati nechi de londo kapo hiyo, campus na trufia. And so at this point, I would like to thank all of you. In case there is any pending issue that we would like to attend to, we are ready to answer to that. Any pending issue, and I think going, there is no one who is raising an issue. Thanks so much.
Simon, thanks. Thanks so much. Thank you.